In today's video, we test drive Canyon Run, a high-speed, high-risk Gaslands racing scenario, using the new Martian Racing Federation anti-grav racing rules. Well, hi folks, this is Lee from skirmishwargames.com. Welcome to the channel. Today, Lynn and I are going to risk life and limb playing Canyon Run, which is the second scenario for the Gaslands Martian Racing Federation rules featured in Blaster, a new gaming anthology publication with contributions from a number of indie game designers, including Gaslands' Mike Hutchinson. So if you watched our last Martian Racing Federation video, that was a simple one-lap demo of the Martian Speedway rules, which is basically a standard, race around the track type scenario. In Canyon Run, however, the whole board acts as kind of like a conveyor belt. So our racers are going to be trying to move forward as rapidly as possible while terrain comes toward them. So they need to keep forward progress so they don't drop off the starting edge of the board. And also they need to zigzag around these terrain pieces. So we'll explain how that works during the game. But before we get to that, let me correct an error that we made in the last video regarding collisions. So under the normal Earthbound Gaslands rules, if a vehicle is putting down a movement template and that movement template overlaps a piece of terrain or another vehicle, then that movement stops right there, and there's a collision window, and then you resolve any collision effects. Under the Martian Racing Federation rules, however, if a vehicle is activated and it's putting down its sequence of templates, and one of those templates overlaps with another vehicle or a piece of terrain, that doesn't necessarily stop the movement of the activated vehicle. When a movement template overlaps with a vehicle or an obstacle, that does create a collision window, and you do have to resolve collision effects. But unless those collision effects make the activated grav racer exceed its max G value, then its activation still continues. So the driver would keep putting down templates, possibly even running into other obstacles. But again, as long as it didn't exceed its max G value, then its activation would continue until it had placed all of its templates, and then at that point, its activation would end. As you can see here, if a grav racer was competing against multiple opponents, and he happened to put down an activation movement track that collided with several of them, and as long as he didn't exceed his max G value, he could keep moving along, giving this guy a G-lock token, this guy a G-lock token, and then maybe even colliding with a solid piece of terrain, which gives him a G-lock token. But as long as he doesn't exceed his max G value, then he continues on his merry way, causing chaos until he's placed his last template, and at that point, his activation ends. So obviously this is quite a bit different than traditional Gaslands, and I think this is how it works. All right, Lynn, are you ready to race your landspeeder down the terrors of the Canyon Run and to try to avoid colliding in rocks and robots and houses and moisture evaporators and everything else flying our way?
Yeah, I don't think this race will come to an end in a very positive way. I don't think anyone will win. It'll be more who loses first.
Right. No happy endings in the Canyon Run, most likely, but this game is a little bit different, like I said before, and you'll also notice that we're not using our Streaks Martian Racers like we did in the last race. These are our old standbys, our Hot Wheels landspeeders that we modified for our Gaslands landspeeder race from about a year and a half ago. So this is Duke Carbiner right here, and this is Captain Stern. And today, Lynn, you're going to be piloting Captain Stern's landspeeder, and I'll be flying with Duke. You may also notice that we're not on the plains of Mars anymore. This is some sort of a desert planet, a backwater desert planet in a galaxy far, far away. So at the start of our Canyon Run, our desert canyon is essentially free of terrain, but that's going to change rapidly. And that's important because Canyon Run has a special rule called high impact, which means that grav racers that collide with terrain during the Canyon Run are instantly disqualified. And by disqualified, we mean that they explode in a big cinematic ball of fire and shrapnel. And that will most likely determine the winner. Technically, whoever gets across the edge is supposed to be the winner, but I don't know if we're going to navigate it successfully, so we'll just have to see. Because this whole board, as we said earlier, acts as a conveyor belt. So while it's moving backwards, our cars are trying to move forwards, but it's pulling them backwards. And if they drop off the edge, then they lose the race. If they crash into the canyon walls, they lose the race. Also, terrain accumulates. There gets to be more and more of it the further on in the game we go. So after about turn 3, it's basically just a wall of terrain. So we might cut it off at turn 3 and just see what our progress is. All right, well, let's get to it. As usual, we start by rolling for pole position. I have a 5, you have a 3, so I have pole position. Okay, we have a center marker on the starting edge of the board, so I'm just going to place Duke right over here, Duke Carbiner, and then where's Captain Stern going to go? Okay, he's right there. And if you watched our last Martian Racing Federation video, then you got a brief recap of the rules in there. We won't repeat that whole thing, but just briefly, we are going to use our cards here, and we have to plan out up to 6 movements using these cards. We have to plan them before a move and then, have them secretly so we don't know what each other is doing. Long straights and medium straights and things like that give you an increase in your gravity tokens, which can make you fly out of control eventually. And turns generally reduce the number of gravity tokens that you have, which is great if you're doing a circular track like we did on our last video where there's lots of hard turns. So it's pretty easy to keep gravity tokens under control. This scenario, however, is going to force us to travel forward as rapidly as possible so we don't have the conveyor belt action drop us backwards off the starting edge of the board, which we don't want. So there's going to be a lot less opportunity to use those nice little hard turns, unless we want to do a hard turn, but who knows where we'll end up, and obviously terrain is going to be a factor. So we'll just see how that all goes, which is all to say that this game will be quite a bit different than the last game.
Yes, it will.
Yes, it will. And Lynn has reminded me that as part of our deployment, I need to place one piece of terrain because I have pole position. So we're going to place this Jawa hut here on the edge. And as the game proceeds, this will be moving toward our landspeeders. So that'll be the first piece of terrain, but there's many, many more to follow. So this is just the first one. And we'll show you how that mechanic works here in a second. But now we're off to the planning phase, and we're going to look at our cards and determine a sequence of up to 6 movement templates. And if we don't choose them in the right sequence, then we might have our car exceed its max grav capacity. The land speeders are the equivalent of buzzard class grav racers, so they have a max G of 6, and so we need to determine how we can make as much forward progress as possible without exceeding our G-force limit. So each speeder starts with 0 gravity tokens, and those will build up over the course of the activation, and at the end of the activation they go away. But if we incur a grav lock token for exceeding our max Gs, that sticks with us, and that'll allow the opponent to do something mischievous at the end of the turn, so we don't want that to happen. So Duke Carbiner, his first move is going to be a long straight, which puts him at 3 grav tokens. And for the sake of simplicity, we're just going to use the semi-clear plastic bases on the bottom of these speeders rather than try to measure it up with the front edge. Then the second maneuver is a hard turn, which is -1 gravity token, so that brings him down to 2. We're going to go over this way. Say hello to our friend, Captain Stern.
Don't forget that if I crash into you, you get a grav lock token.
That's right. If an active car crashes into an inactive car, the active car gets a grav token, but the inactive car gets a grav lock token, which is worse. Okay, so my next maneuver is a swerve, which is -2. Brings me down to 0 grav tokens. Then we're going to try a medium straight for +3, so 3 grav tokens.
You're not making much forward progress.
I guess not. I'm traveling more laterally than I had expected, so we'll see if I can bail myself out here. Then I have a turn for -1 gravity tokens. That brings me down to 2. Try to use that to get pointed in the right direction here so I don't fall backwards off the edge of the board when the conveyor belt starts up. And then finally a veer, which is +1 gravity tokens, bringing me up to 3.
Oh, that's not terrible.
A little more lateral movement than I had hoped. Okay, well that's a lot more horizontal movement than I had expected, but that's the way it goes sometimes. And as long as I have enough movement to prevent sliding off the edge, the starting edge, when we move backwards because of the conveyor belt action, then I should be fine. So Duke Carbiner is right there. And now Captain Stern is going to do his thing.
So for Captain Stern's first movement, he's going to do a long straight, which is 3 gravity tokens.
Roaring into the canyon at max velocity.
For his second movement, he's going to do a medium straight, which is 3 grav tokens, which brings me up to his max of 6.
You can push it if you need to, but that gives you a grav lock token, but it does temporarily increase your max grav capacity to 8.
And my next movement is a turn for -1 grav tokens, which brings me down to 5.
A low G turn to the left after 2 high G straight maneuvers.
For his next action, I'm going to do a veer, which is +1 grav tokens, which brings me back up to my max.
Okay. Skirting the edge of disaster.
Last but not least, Captain Stern is going to swerve for -2, which brings him down to 4 grav tokens.
Okay. You opted to play 5 movement templates rather than the maximum allowance of 6, but you still made quite a bit of forward progress. More than me, anyway. Okay, so now we've gotten through the first vehicle activation phase. Now it's time to move some terrain and move some vehicles. So the conveyor belt fires up, and the vehicles and the one terrain piece all move backwards toward the starting edge along straight.
But you don't change their orientation.
Right. They stay pretty much oriented exactly the way they were. And that Jawa's hut is moving toward us.
So since you have pole position, you get to place the terrain piece next.
Okay, so we're in turn 1, so I'm going to place 1 piece of terrain on the far edge of the mat. Then the conveyor belt will fire up for the second time this turn and move everything on the table back toward the starting edge, 1 long straight. Then Lynn will place 1 piece of terrain on the far edge, and that will stay put until the conveyor belt fires up again next turn. Clear as mud, I know, but it'll make sense once you kind of see it in practice.
More and more dangerous the further down the track you get.
Right. Yeah, things get very dicey after more terrain gets placed on the board. All right, since I have pole position, I'm going to place a conveniently sized rock right here on the edge. And now everything moves again.
Correct.
Including the new rock.
Oh, you managed to stay in bounds. We both managed to stay in bounds, so that's a bonus.
The Jawa hut is coming your way.
Now I get to place a terrain piece.
Oh, the cannon. That must be an old rebel gun emplacement. Okay, so that's the first turn, I guess. We've moved our vehicles. We've placed terrain. We've moved terrain. The conveyor belt has been activated. Everything's moved appropriately. And now we go to round 2.
And I get pole position.
All right, there you go.
Pole position can be very dangerous, though, because it means I have to move first. That means I get the first opportunity to run into a lethal piece of terrain.
Okay, now we're back in our planning phase, and as you can see, I went through a lot of pain and effort to move maybe 1.5 inches. So I have to make sure I'm making forward progress, or I will end up off the starting edge and out of the game. Okay, have you got your plan?
Do my math again. I don't want to end up with a grav lock token, because you would have too much fun with that.
Yeah, grav lock tokens in this game would be pretty deadly because there's just too many things to swerve people into. And you can't just drive through them like you can in a regular game of Martian Racing Federation because each terrain piece is deadly. We're hitting it at high speed, and there's just going to be a puff of smoke and fire and a ball of Wookiee hair flying into the sky. Or droid components, depending.
Okay, I think I'm ready.
All right.
This could go horribly wrong right off the bat, we'll see. For Captain Stern's first movement, he's going to do a hard turn, which is -1 grav tokens. Since he's already at 0, it won't affect his grav tokens.
A low G maneuver.
For his next one, we're going with high G. We're going to go along straight, which is 3 grav tokens, bringing him up to 3. Oh, this could be very bad right off the bat.
Are you going to work your way out of it?
Probably not, but we'll see. For Captain Stern's next movement, he's going to do a swerve, which is -2 and brings him down to 1 grav token. So hopefully I will clear the hut.
Yeah, and if you feel like there's a risk you're going to run into that, you can always use your air brakes, which gives you an extra grav token, but would allow you to place that template in reverse. Though we can't move in reverse very much in this game, so keep moving forward.
Hopefully this will clear it.
Oh, the swerve.
The swerve, we like the swerve. And for his next movement, he's going to do a medium straight, which brings him up to 4 grav tokens.
Yep, navigating around the Jawa hut.
For For the next movement, Captain Stern's going to do a veer, which is +1 grav token, bringing him up to 5.
Yeah, the veer is great. It keeps you moving forward, but it's not nearly as expensive as the medium straight.
And last but not least, a short straight, which brings him up to 6 grav tokens, which is his max.
Okay.
So that got him pretty far forward.
It did.
Not that it will be very far when we move backwards, but at least
All
it's
right.
forward progress. And
That's
I
all
didn't
right.
crash into anything, which was a worry there for a moment.
Okay, Duke Carbiner is going to do his activation, and he's going to start with a gentle turn. So even though it's a turn, it's a gentle turn, so I guess they count that as a high G maneuver. So he does get 2 grav tokens, but it does help ease him back toward the center of the canyon. And he's going to follow that up with a long straight, which brings him up to 5 grav tokens.
Coming up on your max.
I am. Here we go. Followed by the always popular hairpin turn, which brings him down to 3 grav tokens.
That's going to be interesting.
Okay. We go like that.
Oh, that
The
worked.
hairpin. Followed by a hard turn, which brings him down to 2 grav tokens.
I'm really interested how that's going to work.
Yeah, we're going to try the air brake on that because I don't think I'm going to clear that hut. So we're going to go up to 3 grav tokens for the air brake. So that template will overlap. That'll go kind of like that. Then we're going to follow it up with a medium straight. I was hoping to make some forward progress. So that puts me at 6 grav tokens. That is the max grav allowance for my Buzzard class landspeeder. So that would look something like that.
Well,
And
that's
then,
not terrible.
then finally I have a swerve for -2 grav tokens, bringing me down to 4. And I hope this will give me enough forward progress so I can avoid being dropped off the edge, the starting edge of the board.
It's a good thing that was a swerve instead of a short straight.
Right. So swerve puts me right about there. And let's see what that looks like. Kind of like that.
That's not as horrible as I thought it was going to end up.
Yeah, thank God for the air brakes. Almost forgot about those.
Now the real fun begins.
That's right. Okay, the big conveyor belt fires up and everything moves back toward the starting edge along straight. These terrain pieces move back. The 2 land speeders move back. And your abandoned rebel gun tower comes into view.
It's my pole position, so I get to set the first piece of terrain.
Right. So it's the second turn, so you're going to set one, I'm going to set one. Everything will move again, and then you'll set one again, and I'll set one again, and then we go to the next turn,
Correct.
which is turn 3.
So for my terrain piece, I'm going to place this robot over here.
All right. Is that a active robot or just some desert junk from a previous conflict?
I think he looks pretty active.
Yeah, he might be active. Maybe he's just immobile and he's waiting for someone to run into him and make him angry, and then he'll go stampeding through the local spaceport. And for mine, I think we're going to have a, let's do this nice big ruin. And we'll put that right here at the beginning of the path. Okay, so that is our 2 terrain pieces, and now everything moves again. So the Jawa hut actually goes off the edge, so that gets recycled into the terrain pile.
Someone's moving the conveyor belt too fast.
Yeah.
I'm not making much forward progress.
Rock goes back there. We didn't move either of the cars yet, right?
Correct.
So really the odds of making it to the end of this race, I suppose you could do it if you're really proficient, but more likely someone's just going to have a bad draw and end up crashing into a terrain piece, and that will determine victory for the other guy.
Now we get to place 2 more terrain pieces. I think I'm going to place this bantha over here.
So yeah, 1 giant bantha. Yeah, let's do this, this moisture evaporator. And for these tall, skinny pieces that have a wider base, just the actual hardware is the terrain, so they can run over the space if they want to. All right, now it's turn 3.
That means it's your pole position.
Okay. And I'm kind of facing the wrong direction here, but Try to get myself straightened out and make some forward progress so I don't get dropped off the edge of the board. So, Duke Carbiner is going to start with a medium straight, which brings him up to 3 grav tokens immediately. And that looks something like this. Then he's going to follow that up with a hard turn, which is -1 grav tokens, bringing him down to 2.
Got you lined up nicely.
Followed up by a long straight, which brings me up to 5 grav tokens, but gives me some much needed forward motion, which allows Duke to pull ahead of Captain Stern for the moment. Let's see if he can build upon that lead. Then we're going to go for a swerve for -2 grav tokens, bringing him down to 3. Let's try that. Then the gentle turn, bringing him back up to 5 grav tokens.
Well, that's looking good.
And lastly, the veer, bringing him to 6. So he maxed out his grav tokens, and let's see what's the best way to do this veer. Maybe like that.
Well, that looks good. You got more forward momentum than I thought you were going to get.
Yeah. Duke's going to snake his way along the canyon trail before it becomes completely choked with terrain. Okay, looking good, Duke. Just avoid those banthas and that big moisture evaporator coming at you.
Now we'll see if I can maneuver as well as Duke did.
Some people call it control. Some people call it blind luck.
So for Captain Stern's first movement, he's going to do a medium straight for 3 grav tokens.
Captain Stern is shooting off toward the abandoned gun tower.
The next one is going to be a veer for +1 grav tokens, bringing it up to 4 grav tokens. So far so good, by the skin of my teeth. Next movement for Captain Stern is a swerve, brings him down to 2 grav tokens. Well, that's okay so far. Next one is a long straight for +3 grav tokens, bringing it up to 5.
Okay. The long straight generates a lot of G-forces, but it'll get you there.
And last but not least, the turn for -1, bringing it down to 4 grav tokens. All right.
And I should mention that these rules are designed to be played on a 4x4 game mat. This game mat here is kind of 3x3, so we've extended it a little bit to give us a little more room, but still this is about 42 inches, so we're about a ½ foot short of the recommended game board, which means the grav racers can cover a lot more ground, but still we haven't made it to the end yet. So.
But that means there's much more terrain in a smaller area too.
Yeah, a little bit more concentration of terrain, absolutely. Okay. Navigating the terrain.
So close and yet so far.
The end is in sight.
Not for very long.
Okay, that's it for the vehicle activations this turn, and there's no gravlock phase because no one got a gravlock token. But now we have to move the conveyor belt, so all of the vehicles and all the terrain that's currently on there will make its first move.
You want to move those 4, and I'll move these 4?
Okay. So the conveyor belt starts up. Everything currently on the map moves along straight forward toward the starting edge. So this rock is going off the edge. Okay. Yeah, if you collide into that moisture evaporator, that farmer's going to be really angry.
Okay, it's your pole position, so you get to place the first terrain piece.
Okay, so we're placing 3 terrain pieces, then they're going to move, then we place another 3. Okay, this will be interesting. So we're going to start with this big pile of rocks, and I guess we'll place that right there. Now you place one.
So I'm going to place this industrial tower right here.
Okay. How about this little hut? Somebody lives in there. Probably not a Jawa. Maybe, maybe that old hermit that wanders the desert. Okay, so that is our 3 terrain pieces. Now we move everything again. Let's see. Everything goes back along straight. I think I'm going to drop off the edge. How did that happen? Oh, we already moved this once.
Yes.
Okay. Whew! I was nervous. I didn't think I would make it. Conveyor belt action. Now, since we're in turn 3, and each turn you actually place terrain twice, We placed our first 3. Now we're placing a second 3, and things are going to get really crazy. So now, Lynn, you go ahead and place one.
I'll go with the turret.
Okay. And I'll place this cooling tower right there. And then you place another one.
I think I'll go for something small, like this little set of rocks. I'm not looking forward to having pole position this turn.
Yeah. Okay, so this is turn 4 then. And we're going to say this is the last turn no matter what happens. So that's what the table looks like right now. And obviously all this is going to be moving toward us while we try to claw our way forward. We'll see what we do. So I guess it's the planning phase, right?
It is.
Yeah, I don't know. Something bad's going to happen. I just...
Like I said, I'm not looking forward to having pole position. You usually think that pole position is a good thing, but not necessarily in this one. The further along you get.
Captain Stern is further up the field, but he's pointed sideways.
Yeah.
Well, just take your best stab at it. If nothing else, it might be a catastrophic failure, which is always good for a few yucks, right?
Exactly.
If you're going to lose big.
The question is, which thing am I going to crash into? That is the question.
Famous last words for me. Okay.
So Captain Stern's first movement is going to be a hairpin turn for -2, so that leaves him at 0.
Right. Yeah, you start at 0 grav tokens. You can't go to negative grav tokens, so you stay at 0.
So his next one is going to be a long straight.
Okay.
Puts him at 3.
3 grav tokens.
So the next move for Captain Stern is going to be a swerve, which is -2 grav tokens. Brings him down to 1 grav token. Next on the agenda is a veer, which is 1 grav token, which brings him up to 2 grav tokens. So he's going to air brake it, which brings him up to 3 grav tokens.
So that goes in reverse.
He would have gone out of bounds.
Oh, you were worried about shooting this way. Okay.
Yeah, because it would have pointed me that way and gone straight off. So
Okay.
the air brakes came in handy. Then we have a medium straight, which brings him up to max grav tokens of 6. Not much forward progress, but at least we didn't go off the board.
Okay.
And last but not least is a turn, which is good that it was a turn because it's -1 grav tokens. Brings him down to 5.
All right. Not too bad.
No, not much forward progress, but at least we didn't go off the track.
You're still in the canyon.
I was very worried about either crashing into something or going off the track.
Okay, Captain Stern, hanging in there. Okay, Duke Carbiner is going to start with a swerve.
Those can be problematic, but they're good for getting around things.
Okay, we're going to swerve. And then we're going to do a long, which is +3 gravity tokens. And we'll see if I can clear that tower with a long. I don't know. Let's see.
Well, it doesn't count if you hit the terrain that's on the side of it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because we don't count the gravelly area around the moisture evaporator. That's good. Yeah, the landspeeders are floating on some kind of anti-gravity repulsor field, so they have pretty good clearance. Next, I'm going to put down a turn template, which is -1 gravity tokens, bringing me down to 2. So that goes something like that. And then medium straight, +3 gravity tokens, bringing me to 5. I think I'm good. Right? And we're going to follow that with a hard turn, which is -1 gravity tokens, bringing him down to 4. Let's hope that's enough to clear the gap. And yeah, we didn't even have to lean the speeder up on one edge. And then finally a veer, which is +1 gravity tokens, and that brings him up to 5 gravity tokens. So he's still within his max Gs, and let's see if he can veer his way close to victory. Yeah, there we go. I did lose some paint when I was going over the gravelly area with the moisture evaporator, but he was able to
Really nice forward progress.
get up there. Okay, Lynn, well, somehow we both survived past turn 4. So we'd be going into turn 5, but I think we've both proven ourselves and both teams have shown that they can navigate the canyon. So we're going to call it here and maybe head to the cantina and have ourselves a frosty pint of whatever's on tap.
And get a few meaty skewers.
That's right. Well, yeah, I've heard the meat is of dubious quality, but put enough spice on it and anything's edible. So yeah, having survived through turn 4 and the harrowing Canyon of Death, Duke Carbiner and Captain Stern are going to put aside their differences, toss back a few pints at the local cantina, and maybe tell a few tall tales to the other patrons about their canyon run today, which actually was pretty impressive. I wasn't quite sure we were going to be able to thread the needle and avoid all the terrain, particularly when we started getting 6 new pieces of terrain on the board in a turn. So
we can wax large about our near misses.
Yeah, so I had one kind of here. You did have to hit the air brakes at one point. But other than that, nobody really careened their gravity racer into a big boulder with catastrophic results. So that is a good day in the desert, I think. Well, Lynn, I found this game to be a little bit nerve-wracking because any misstep resulted in instant death. And if you didn't keep plodding forward at a good enough pace, that also resulted in instant death. So lots of instant death, but good fun nonetheless. Well, folks, we hope you enjoyed watching us take a stab at Canyon Run, the second scenario for the Gaslands Martian Racing Federation rules. If you like the things we do here, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please give this video a big thumbs up, and of course, please visit us online at our website, skirmishwargames.com.